Video opens with slow, cinematic shots of desolate, rain-swept battlefields. Crumbling colossal walls loom in the background under a bruised, gray sky. The sound of distant, mournful horns and the low rumble of thunder. Voiceover. There is a unique form of exhaustion known only to those who have to keep going. It's not the simple fatigue of a day's labor. It's the spiritual erosion that comes from carrying the weight of ghosts. You have felt it. A hollow space in your chest where a project you poured your soul into used to be. The quiet echo in a room once filled by a person you loved. The bitter taste of a failure that was supposed to be a triumph. We call this the survivor's burden. It's the paradoxical curse of being strong enough, or perhaps just unlucky enough, to be the one left standing. And this burden has a voice. It whispers to you in the quiet hours. It tells you to stop. It tells you that you've done enough. Lost enough. It tells you that to continue on is a betrayal of the memory of what's gone. But in the next 20 minutes, I will show you how to silence that voice. We will dissect the psychological armor of the one man who carried the weight of 1,000 fallen comrades and never once broke formation. We are going to decode Levi Ackerman's Operational Stoicism, and I promise you, by the end of this analysis, you will possess a strategic framework for how to keep fighting, even after you've lost everything. Phase 2. The problem voiceover. Survivor's burden doesn't announce itself with a trumpet call. It's a quiet sickness. It seeps into your foundation like black mold. You know the feeling. You're at your desk, or in your workshop, or at the gym. You are supposed to be moving forward, working on the next objective. But your focus is a phantom. Your mind keeps drifting back to the wreckage. The conversation you wish you could take back. The decision that led to the collapse. The face of the person who isn't there anymore. You feel a profound, unshakable guilt. Why are you the one who gets to keep going? Why are you the one who has to carry the torch when your hands are shaking so badly you fear you'll drop it? Every step forward feels like you're leaving something sacred behind. Each new success feels tainted, like a flower growing on a mass grave. Think of it in a smaller, more common theater of war. Imagine you led a startup. You and your team, your comrades, spent years in the trenches together, fueled by coffee and a shared vision. You were the leader, the one they looked to. And then, despite your best efforts, the market shifted, funding dried up, and the company failed. Everyone moves on. They find new jobs, new missions. But you were the commander. You're the one who looks at the empty office, the silent servers, the ghosts of whiteboards covered in brilliant, dead ideas. The weight of every person's hope, every late night they sacrificed, settles squarely on your shoulders. And now, a new opportunity arises. A new venture, a new team. But you hesitate. You're paralyzed. The voice of the burden whispers, "Look what happened last time. You'll just lead them to the same end. You don't deserve another chance." This is the hidden cost of the survivor's burden. It's not the grief itself. Grief is a clean wound, a testament to love and commitment. The cost is the paralysis that follows. The burden convinces you that your past failures define your future potential. It takes your strength, your resilience, your experience, and reframes it as a liability. And so you stagnate. You refuse to lead again. You refuse to build again. You refuse to love again. You honor the dead by joining them in stillness. And in doing so, you betray their memory completely. You ensure that their sacrifice, their effort, their belief in you, was for nothing. The survivor's burden doesn't just make you miserable, it makes you strategically useless. It is in this exact psychological kill box that we find Captain Levi. A man who lives this scenario not once, but on a weekly basis. A man who buries more comrades than he shares meals with. And yet, he never stops. He never falters. How? Because he is not a victim of his grief. He is a soldier. And he treats his grief like any other battlefield condition. Something to be managed, navigated, and subordinated to the mission. Visuals shift to stark, high-contrast shots of Levi. His blank expression, the meticulous way he cleans his blades, the cold fury in his eyes during combat. The focus is on his discipline, not his acrobatics. Phase 3. Solution voiceover. The answer to the survivor's burden lies in a philosophy forged not in quiet Athenian gardens, but on the brutal battlefields of history. It is Stoicism. But this isn't the passive, academic Stoicism of popular culture. This is what we will call Operational Stoicism. It is not about the absence of emotion. Look closely at Levi. The pain is there. You see it in the briefest flicker of his eyes when he discovers his fallen squad. You feel it in the chilling calm with which he speaks to a dying soldier. Levi feels overwhelming grief, rage, and despair. The difference is this: to him, those feelings are simply data. They are battlefield intelligence. They are not his commanding officer. Operational Stoicism is the ruthless discipline of separating feeling from function. It is the unwavering commitment to the objective, regardless of the cost to your own heart. It is a weaponized mindset built on 3 core principles. Principle 1. The Dichotomy of Control. The first and most fundamental law of the Stoic is to draw a hard, unforgiving line between what you can control and what you cannot. You cannot control the titans. You cannot control the corruption within the walls. You cannot control that a trusted comrade will make a fatal error in judgment. You cannot control the rain, the mud, or the inevitability of loss. To spend even 1 ounce of energy raging against these facts is to waste ammunition on a fortress that cannot fall. What can Levi control? The sharpness of his blades. The precision of his maneuvers. The discipline of his squad. His choice of where to strike next. His commitment to the orders given by his commander. His own actions, and only his actions. This is not a philosophy of passivity. It is a philosophy of radical focus. By relinquishing the fantasy of controlling the uncontrollable, Levi liberates all of his energy, all of his focus, all of his formidable skill, to be deployed with absolute efficiency on the things he can influence. He doesn't waste time asking, "Why did this happen?" He asks, "What is my next move?" Principle 2. The Subordination of Grief. In our world, we are taught to process our grief, to give it space, to let it run its course. For a soldier in a perpetual war, this is a luxury that leads to annihilation. Levi's method is not suppression, it is subordination. He acknowledges the pain. He accepts it as a tactical reality. But he files it away, to be dealt with later. If there is a later. The mission, humanity's survival, takes absolute precedence. His grief for his fallen squad, for Petra, for Oluo, for Eld and Gunther, is profound. But when he is in the field, that grief is subordinate to the immediate objective, recovering Eren Yeager. He makes the brutal, but strategically sound, decision to dump his comrades' bodies to lighten the wagon and escape. This appears monstrously cold. But it is the ultimate act of respect. What honors them more? Dying alongside their bodies in a futile gesture of sentimentality? Or surviving to ensure that their deaths purchased something meaningful? Principle 3. The practice of negative visualization. The Stoics called this Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils. Modern military strategy calls it contingency planning. Levi does not hope for the best. He expects the worst, and trains for it. He walks into every mission having already accepted, on a deep and strategic level, that everyone around him might die. He has already visualized the failure state. He has rehearsed the retreat. He has war-gamed the catastrophe. This is not pessimism. This is psychological inoculation. When the worst inevitably happens, when his squad is annihilated by the female titan, when Erwin Smith sacrifices himself at Shiganshina, Levi is not shattered by shock. He is not paralyzed by disbelief. He is, in a terrible sense, prepared. The emotional shock is blunted because the scenario has already been run. This preparation allows him to bypass the debilitating stages of denial and bargaining and move directly to action. He is already thinking 2 steps ahead while everyone else is still reeling from the blow. Think of his mindset as that of a master battlefield surgeon. The surgeon is surrounded by blood and trauma. He feels the tragedy of every catastrophic wound. But he cannot allow his empathy to shake his hand. He cannot allow his grief for the man on the table to cloud the cold, precise judgment required to save him. The surgeon's emotional response is a luxury he can only afford after the operation is over. For Levi, the operation is never over. The patient is always humanity. and his hands never, ever shake. Visuals show a montage of Levi making hard choices. Leaving bodies behind, obeying Irwin's seemingly suicidal orders, fighting Kenny the Ripper in a chaotic city. The focus is on the cold, calculated look in his eyes. Phase 4. The application voiceover. This is not merely an analysis of a fictional character. This is a strategic briefing. The principles of operational stoicism can be drilled and implemented in your own life. The survivor's burden is a formidable enemy, but it can be defeated with the right training. Here are 4 actionable techniques. Your new standard operating procedure. 1. Conduct an after-action review on your grief. When you suffer a defeat, you lose a job, a relationship ends, a project fails, your first instinct is to drown in the emotion. Resist it. Instead, conduct a military-style after-action review. Take out a piece of paper or open a document. Create 3 columns. Column A. Objective facts. What happened, described without emotion or judgment. The project was cancelled due to budget cuts. My partner stated they were unhappy and ended the relationship. Stick to the verifiable data. Column B. Sphere of control. What elements of this situation were directly within my control? What was outside of it? Be honest and ruthless. You couldn't control the market, but you could have controlled your work ethic. You couldn't control your partner's feelings, but you could have controlled how you communicated. This exercise surgically separates what you are responsible for from the chaotic variables of the world. Column C. Next objective. Based on this intelligence, what is the immediate, actionable next step? Not a grand, 5-year plan. The next thing. Update my resume. Pack my partner's belongings. Schedule a meeting to debrief with my team. This process forces you to shift from a victim's mindset to a strategist's. It transforms a nebulous cloud of pain into a set of clear, manageable data points and a single, forward-facing command. 2. Define your mission mandate. Levi's actions are anchored to a purpose greater than his own feelings. Avenge my comrades, and later, fulfill Irwin's final command. This is his North Star in the blackest night. You must define your own. What is the one, core principle that you serve? The one thing that remains true even when everything else is lost? It might be, provide a safe and stable home for my children. It might be, achieve mastery in my craft. It might be, leave this world a little better than I found it. Write it down. Put it on a post-it note on your monitor. Make it your phone's wallpaper. This is your mission mandate. When the survivor's burden whispers that it's pointless to get out of bed, you look at your mandate. It is your standing order from a higher command, yourself. It provides the strategic justification for continuing the fight. Grief is a powerful emotion, but it is no match for a powerful purpose. 3. Practice grief scheduling. This sounds cold and clinical. It is. And it works. Operational stoicism does not mean you ignore your emotions. It means you command them. You do not let grief run your entire day. You give it a designated time and place. Set a timer. For the next 30 minutes, I will not distract myself. I will sit with this pain. I will look at the old photos. I will listen to the sad songs. I will feel the full weight of this loss. You allow the emotion to have its hearing. But when that timer goes off, the hearing is over. You stand up, take a deep breath, and return to the mission. You have paid your respects. Now, you have a duty to the living. This technique is a controlled burn. You are acknowledging the fire of your grief but refusing to let it become a wildfire that consumes your entire life. You are the commander of your own mind, not its subject. 4. Enact a ritual of continuation. In the filth and chaos of his world, Levi is obsessively clean. This is not a mere personality quirk, it is a psychological weapon. In a life where almost everything is outside of his control, the act of cleaning is a small, repeatable ritual of imposing order on his immediate environment. It is a physical declaration that, despite the world crumbling around him, this small corner of it will be subject to his will and discipline. You need your own ritual. It could be making your bed with military precision every morning. It could be a specific, intense workout. It could be organizing your desk at the end of each day. The ritual itself doesn't matter. What matters is that it is simple, It is within your complete control, and it is performed consistently, especially on the days you feel your worst. Each time you complete your ritual, you are casting a vote for order over chaos. You are training your mind and body, telling them that even in the face of great loss, the work continues. The discipline holds. You are still in command. Phase 5. The proof voiceover. The proof of this philosophy is etched into every frame of Levi's story. The ultimate crucible for his operational stoicism arrives after the Battle of Shiganshina. He has lost nearly everyone. The Survey Corps is decimated, and he is faced with an impossible choice. He holds a single syringe of Titan serum. Before him lie two bodies, both on the brink of death. On one side, Armin Arler, the brilliant, young strategist, the future of the Corps. On the other, Commander Erwin Smith, his leader, his mentor, the man whose vision he has followed into hell time and time again. The man he respects more than anyone. Every fiber of his personal being, his loyalty, his history, screams to save Erwin. The emotional choice is clear. But Levi's feelings are not in command. He stops. He detaches. He runs the strategic calculus. He remembers Erwin's final state, a man enslaved by his dream, willing to sacrifice everything and everyone to reach the basement, to prove his father right. He recognizes that Erwin has become a demon, and to bring him back is to condemn him to more of that hell. The kindest, most strategic act is to let his commander rest. To release him from his burden. He gives the serum to Armin. He chooses the future of the Corps over his own personal attachment to the past. In that moment, Levi's face is a mask of pure agony. It is the hardest decision of his life. But he makes it. He subordinates his profound personal grief to the long-term mission objective. That is the power of operational stoicism. It is a philosophy that allows a man to make the right choice even when it breaks his own heart. This isn't just fiction. This mindset is the bedrock of real-world resilience. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, himself a Stoic philosopher, wrote his private journal, Meditations, not in a peaceful study, but in a tent on the front lines of a brutal, decade-long war against Germanic tribes, all while a devastating plague ravaged his empire. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." He was a man beset by loss, death, and chaos, yet he used those very obstacles as fuel for his discipline and his duty. Or consider Viktor Frankl, an Austrian psychiatrist who survived the Holocaust. In his book, Man's Search for Meaning, he observed that the prisoners who survived were not necessarily the physically strongest, but those who could find a meaning, a purpose, to their suffering. He wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing. The last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." This is the core of Levi's strength. He is not strong because he doesn't feel pain. He is strong because he chooses, again and again, to not let that pain be the thing that defines his actions. He understands the brutal logic. Uncontrolled grief leads to hesitation. Hesitation leads to failure. And failure renders the sacrifices of the fallen meaningless. Therefore, the only true way to honor the dead is to win the war they died fighting. Visually, the screen cross-fades between shots of Levi making his choice, historical images of Roman legions, and the stark interior of a concentration camp barracks. The theme is universal human resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. Phase 6. The call to action voiceover. Levi's war is fought with blades and gas against giants. Your war is fought against despair, against entropy, against the voice of the survivor's burden that tells you to lay down your arms. But the strategic principles are the same. You are the commander of your own life. Your emotions are your troops. They can be a chaotic, terrified mob, or they can be a disciplined, effective fighting force. The choice is yours. So now, a question for the comments. The first step in our briefing was to define your mission mandate. I want you to share it. In the comments below, tell us, what is the mission mandate that keeps you moving forward when faced with your own battles? There is strength in shared strategy. Let's build an arsenal of purpose together. Here, beyond the walls, we don't just tell stories. We dissect the strategies of survival. We believe that within these epic struggles, There are blueprints for our own. If you are committed to understanding the fight, both out there and in here, subscribe and join the core. Finally, Levi's Stoicism was not forged in a vacuum. It was tempered under the command of the one man whose strategic gambles made Levi's tactical genius possible. To understand the mind that shaped the soldier, you must understand the devil who gave him his orders. The logical next step in your briefing is our deep dive analysis. Erwin Smith, The Psychology of a Necessary Devil. Click here to continue your training. Dedicate your hearts.